everyone, and welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Okay, guys, in all seriousness, this watch deserves, a lovely, sophisticated accent, tons of macros, slow motion, all that. But that's not this channel, but I'll still do my best to integrate those types of things for people who are new to the channel that just kind of stumbled on because they were looking for this particular review. This is from Glashütte Original. They have really been in kind of the art of German watchmaking since 1848. Yes, old school. Now, in terms of the type of watch, I'd consider this an everyday dress watch. Some key characteristics, and it's not like when you're looking for something that you can wear every day that dresses up pretty well. You're gonna, of course, want that clean, classic design, and of course, something that is also sensibly sized. This is their PanoMaticLunar, and yes, this thing is sweet. With this eye-catching, kind of unmistakable asymmetrical dial visual, which really highlights the stunning green hue with a subtle degraded effect, and equally stunning display case back that showcases the gorgeous movement. The PanoMaticLunar transcends genre preferences and really impresses even the most dedicated and jaded of sports watch collectors. Now, this is not a cheap watch by any means. I'm only able to share it with you guys thanks to the team over at Belmont Watches locally in San Diego here. This normally goes for $10,100 US as of 2023 pricing, but you can actually get it from Belmont Watches for $72.50. So great savings from that perspective. But with all that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, guys, now with that all out of the way, let's go ahead and get a hands-on with this gorgeous piece. Again, big shout out to Belmont Watches in San Diego for lending this piece in so that I can experience it and just share my thoughts with you all in case any of you are considering a piece of this magnitude or even just something within a similar range in terms of comparables. Now, in terms of the type of watch, we know that this is a very nice dressy watch, but the size itself is actually very, very wearable. Now, at 40 millimeters in diameter, some of you are thinking that's really big for a dress watch, but I think we're going to show you guys today that something like this with this level of complication, just the asymmetric nature of that dial and the complications that are there, honestly, scale helps, especially when it's not wasted space because of the way that they've done that kind of fume gradation on the dial. It actually, it just works some real magic that I can absolutely appreciate as I hold it here and as you'll see when I do put it on the wrist. Now, the thickness is 12.7 millimeters thick, which honestly, some of you are looking at this profile thinking that also looks quite thick. Again, it is helped by the scale because of the level of detail. You wouldn't want something like this to be very crowded. Sure, they probably could have shrunk things down and just made a very clean dress watch, maybe a three-hander or even a two-hander. But there's just something very, very special in terms of the layout and what you're going to see here, as well as how it all comes together on the wrist quite cohesively. I'd consider this, in a similar vein as something you would see, like, let's say from Grand Seiko, where you're going to be wearing something that is dressy, but it is on the larger side because it's also more of an everyday piece. Now, this definitely is going to be more of an everyday piece. Sure, it'll look good dressed up, whether you're in a suit or a tux, but this will also look completely fine and at home while you're wearing a short sleeve. So that is where things really differ. You could wear this in shorts, depending on if you're that guy with that style, maybe some nice boat shoes or loafers, but this definitely becomes more versatile because of the size. So the lug to lug is 47 millimeters. It is stainless steel, brushed and polished. It does have a beautiful double domed sapphire crystal, which you can see here is, basically invisible. It does have an AR coating there, so yeah, of course, when you are going to get like a full-on reflection from something, it doesn't make it completely go away, but it does a really good job of negotiating and mitigating those reflections so that you can just pay attention to what you really came here for, which was that beautiful dial, and of course, this gorgeous movement, as you guys can see, which, oh my gosh, look at that. So much hand finishing that's been done here. It's just next level, and hopefully those macro slow-mo shots that I cut into the intro will do the watch some justice, because I will say this is just absolutely a smoke show in the hand, and it's fantastic. So getting into more of these details, guys, when you get into the crown, it is a push-pull crown. It is signed very nicely. You see there is a pusher right there, essentially, where you'll take a pusher tool and you can set the moon phase. You're also getting, of course, seconds hand there, which is running. It's hackable. You're also getting, of course, the main dial there, which is offset. It's a kind of in its own sub dial of its own, and it has applied indices. Everything that you would expect. Really gorgeous. The movement inside has a 42-hour power reserve. Beats at 4 hertz or 800 vibrations per hour. You're getting that beautiful duplex swan neck, fine adjustment there, which is insane. And, of course, that beautiful shade of dark green looks fantastic. And I'm not one for green dials, but wow, this one is really hard to argue with. You do have that nice offset, of course, with the hour and minutes dial. And then, of course, the matching sub-seconds there, which also looks fantastic and also is offset, but kind of lower center of that main offset dial. You're getting the beautiful silver moon phase at 2 o'clock, as well as that beveled panoramic date window at 4 o'clock. And by panoramic, it is wider, yes, because it is actually using 2 discs versus 1. So the date is just really nice, and it definitely has more of a higher end and hot horology effect and feel to it. And it should at the price, but the crazy thing is that this price is actually very affordable when you come to think about what type of level this watch really plays with in terms of kind of that, hey, subtle flex when you're in a room of watch collectors. This is going to carry and garner a lot of weight in terms of just how respectable it is, the craftsmanship, the design, and it's really cool. And then the nice thing is also, even if you don't know anything about watches, you see something like this and it is hard not to be impressed. Wow, this thing is gorgeous. So I think that's the really neat thing about this, and why I thought it would be unique to feature on the channel, because it actually is a value proposition. Although yes, it's a $10,000 watch, also you can get it for $7,000 or $7,250 from Belmont right now, but yeah, okay, quote unquote $10,000 watch, but this thing doesn't look out of place. It doesn't do a bad job next to watches that cost double, triple, quadruple the price. And that is just because of the level of craftsmanship and the name that Glashütte Original has really garnered for itself through its just history of making mind-blowing timepieces. So Very, very nice. Of course, as a dressy piece, it doesn't have a lot of water resistance, only 5 bar or 50 meters. The bracelet, as you can see, is a strap, but there is a bracelet option. It does have 20 millimeter lugs, which is great and makes it a real strap monster. What it's on is actually the Brownlee Louisiana Gator Nubuck leather strap, which has a nice taper down to 18 millimeters. It has this really nice, well done. My goodness, look at the finishing. I probably should have got some macros of that. But this deployant clasp is really gorgeous and really, really well finished, as you guys can see, signed and everything. But let's go ahead, get this piece on the wrist and see how it wears. Okay guys, as you can see on my 7.5-inch wrist, this thing wears really wonderfully. Rides on the wrist really well. Nice turn down lugs, as you can see, have a very sloped nature to them. They really do truly turn down and wrap the wrist really well. Of course, if I do get the watch a little bit too close to the camera lens there's going to be some distortion. So what I'll do is I'll keep my hand nice and low and then just kind of tighten the shot up so you guys can get a better aspect ratio of this watch as if you were wearing it on your own wrist, and how it would look when you kind of gaze down upon it, as you might from time to time. Wow. This is just the luster in the polishing, the level of just detail in that beautiful hairline, brushed satin finish. Oh man, this is just next level. I'm not worthy, guys. I am not worthy of such a timepiece. This thing is really immaculate. And you can see it just does everything you'd need it to, right? As that kind of dressy, everyday piece. Is it absolutely, again, it has the size factor. Some of you might be thinking, again, this is too large, but I just say, look at it. It just doesn't, it's not. At 40 millimeters, they've really squeezed it in. And for those of you with larger wrists or that enjoy larger watches, now you can have something that is super elegant, but also very, very wearable, kind of within that sweet spot of 40 millimeters every day, especially since you do have technically a smaller dial kind of riding within, similar to if you were wearing a dive watch, right? A 40 millimeter diver is going to be on the smaller end, or, I guess more of the medium size, right? But when you take off that, ratcheting dive bezel, then things just look a little bit larger. But you can see here, even with this kind of bezel-less display, although I will say the bezel does have this really fun detail where it steps, if you can look at right there, as it goes up to the crystal. Which just creates this little ripple, a little extra level of dimension and color play and light play. And it just makes this thing feel wet and glossy and just oozing luxury. So with that said, let's actually get this off the wrist and set up for some loom shots, low light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. As you can see, yes, there's a legitimate loom shot here, because there is loom on the hour and minutes hand, which is fantastic. Doesn't go unnoticed or underappreciated. Thank you for fulfilling that within the everyday kind of category. But what I always like to work in, of course, is some low light transition, because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to find yourself coming in and out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, maybe just taking a break underneath the shade of a tree, or spending some time in your favorite automobile. So it is nice to see what these colors, finishes, and textures render like in less than optimal lighting, to even include some high contrast lighting here that would typically expose any type of production defects. But apart from a couple of fingerprints, you're going to see clouding up that really beautifully done polish job there. It's really, you're just going to highlight how insane this is. Look at the way that the sun ray finishing just, it's it's like a laser, like literally a green lightsaber just shoots across and plays with the light. In the meantime, that outer portion of the dial has a completely different type of dial texture and finish to it. So that gradient is just gonna look really gorgeous. Almost has kind of a feeling of water to it there. Again, with the kind of wet theme. I mean, this thing is just sexy, guys. Oh my. And even with very minimal lighting, you can see that it's still going to have a way to kind of reflect and bounce and play. And, you know, at the end of the day, no, this isn't going to be your tactical field watch or a dive watch that you can, you know, take, to any climb and place. This is absolutely meant to be more of a dress watch, absolutely, but one that you can wear on a daily basis without feeling like you have this petite little dress watch. You know, as much as I love, let's say, my Junghans Max Bill, at 38 millimeters and being mostly just a gorgeous dial, it can feel out of place from time to time depending on my attire. And that is, I'd say, a great example of the perfect, if you will, integratable, versatile, everyday type of dress watch. But because of the scale, again, it can feel a little bit small at times and undersized, I think, for the occasion. As here, even though it's 40 millimeters, that's hardly oversized, right? No matter how, nice the occasion is. Like, let's say you're in full on tuxedo. This thing is going to look gorgeous, with a beautiful tux, as well as it's going to look great when you take off your jacket, when you unbutton a couple of the buttons and you start to peel back. I mean, this is just such a cool piece, and I'm very, very taken by it. And I really, I don't own anything like this. Into the closing thoughts, guys. On the wrist, it definitely has a lot more wrist presence than your typical dress watch, and it should. And it already looks really expensive, even at first glance. But then the more you look, upon closer inspection, it just looks even more expensive, which is cool because it's normally not that way. Normally things can look very nice and glossy and fancy from far away. Then you get in closer and you kind of see where you saved money. In this case, wow, I mean, it just makes you assume this is going to be something that is even more expensive the closer you look, and it starts to make you wonder how they're able to give you such a great deal on a timepiece like this. So in terms of model variants, though, there's various dial and case options available, but this is the one you can currently get at a really great discount from Belmont Watches, so please do support them and check them out. In terms of comparable models, now, while I don't typically play, in the true luxury market, which this is absolute, there's no arguing that this is a luxury watch. Especially particularly within the dress watch space, like I do like, of course, luxury sports watches and everything, the entry level luxury, probably a little bit closer to my tastes. So yeah, this isn't really my specialty. So, let me know if you guys can think of some comparables, that if somebody was considering this piece that they might want to take into consideration. So definitely leave those comments down in the space below, of course. But for me, guys, the bottom line is, this is just flat out aspirational. Like, it's the type of watch you'd expect to see on the wrist of a better, more cultured version of yourself. To me, it's the definition of the term subtle flex. Like, this is not in your face. This isn't some Hublot. It doesn't have some shouty complication that is just completely useless or anything like that. Like, this is just so refined and elegant. It's just too cool for me. Like, that's how good it is. It's too cool for school. This thing is awesome, and if I ever was to see one of these out in the wild on somebody's wrist, it would obviously kind of garner instant respect in terms of their watch collecting tastes. This is one that just it demands respect, and that's just how good it is. So with that said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, please do it like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.